Yeah, I like the under here. No value on either side of the money line for me. I made it around minus 140. That's roughly where Cleveland is sitting. So they're the closer side. They're sitting around plus 140. So they're the closer side to being the value side. I would need around plus 150 though, or higher in order to bet the Guardians in either half. The money line is fine to me. The total is a bit high. I do like the under 7.5. Bet that where it opened last night, closer to even money. I projected it closer to 6.5. So I like it down to about 7 and minus 109. You can play 7.5 up to about minus 128. I view Aaron Savali as a better pitcher in a vacuum than Jamison Taillon. 3.8 expected ERA for Savali, 4.2 for Taillon. In terms of how the pitch types match up, though, against these respective lineups, I actually think Savali has the more difficult matchup. Threw his curveball a ton this year, career high usage rate on that curveball. Yankees were a top 5 team against both curveballs and fastballs. They did struggle more against sinkers, which he throws, than they did four-seam fastballs. And they actually really struggled against cutters, ranking 22nd on a per pitch basis against cutters. Seen a lot of cutters deployed against them in this series. Obviously, Emmanuel Clase in the bullpen, but even Cal Quantrill throws that pitch a ton as well. So expect a bevy of cutters from Savali today. Don't expect him to be in the game particularly long either. The first sign of trouble, he should probably get lifted here because the Guardians were able to rest their 3 best relievers for the past 2 days. So they do have a fresh bullpen, relatively speaking, to what the Yankees have, where the Yankees are going to have to use either Wandy Peralta for the 4th day in a row, which doesn't seem ideal, or basically any of their other key relievers that they use are going to be taking the mound for the 3rd time in 4 days, no matter how you slice it, whether they pitched yesterday or the 2 days before. So Yankees bullpen just a little bit more tired coming into this game. The Guardians bullpen, I project as slightly better in general. Yankees obviously offensive and defensive advantages. We've seen that defensive advantage not really matter like it hasn't mattered for a lot of teams against the Guardians this season. They just have this uncanny ability to float balls between the infield and the outfield. I know their 9th inning rally looked like a luck box rally the other night. They had 5 hits. The average expected batting average on those 5 hits was 610. There were a few bloopers in there. I know Jose Ramirez had that triple in extra innings in game 2, I believe, which put the Guardians ahead ultimately. That had a sub 1% hit outcome on it, but that 9th inning rally that the Guardians put together was much more justified. So they put the ball in play. They get lucky sometimes because of it. It's made them live in this series. I think they have the better bullpen. If they can keep it tight with the starting pitchers, I certainly think they have a chance to win, and I am expecting a lower scoring game. So could certainly see the Guardians winning here. There's a huge power discrepancy between these two teams we've talked about, and Savali does allow more than 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. So I think they're going to want to get him out of there as quickly as possible, maybe once through the lineup, and then turn it over to the bullpen. So with that said, do like the under 7.5 pregame. If there's early scoring, I'd probably look for an under 9 live, and I'm also going to look for a Guardians live bet as well if it's tied or if the Guardians are down a run when these starters come out, because I definitely think they should have the bullpen advantage late. And then lastly, an F5 under 4, if that pops up at minus 113, I think that's fine too. Just certainly prefer the full game under 7.5.
You know, Zerillo and I have aligned pretty much throughout this particular series, so I don't have a ton to add. I'm with him entirely on the under. It's actually funny. I actually kind of assumed that the over would be the square play in this. I thought that people would look at the starting pitching matchup and say, oh, there's going to be a ton of runs in this. But no, as Zerillo mentioned, the under got bet down a little bit overnight. You look at our action app data right now, and 63% of the bets and 73% of the money are on the over. So Zerillo and I are both with the public on this one. This is a rare matchup where I'm not factoring in the starting pitchers all that much because I think they're both going to have a quick hook. The only concern would be that Aaron Savali gets lit up so quickly that the Yankees kind of put up a crooked number before Francona has a chance to make a hook. But I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. And he mentioned these bullpens. Eli Morgan is the only Cleveland pitcher who threw the last 2 days. Everyone else is rested, and particularly Emmanuel Clase is rested. I'm going to be really interested to see how Francona deploys him. Obviously, arguably the best 9th inning guy in baseball this year, but Francona is a forward-thinking manager. He'll bring him in a big spot, whether it's the 7th or 8th. If you get Judge and the Yankees top of the lineup up in a key spot, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go with him early. And I think this revolving door of pitchers is a good sign for the under. Cleveland's offense, we talked about being relatively below average. They can dink and dunk you, but if the Yankees keep rotating through some of their different starting pitching options, I think that benefits the Yankees more than it does the Guardians. And obviously the Guardians bullpen is elite, arguably the best in baseball. And I trust Francona to kind of pull the right strings there toward the under. I am going to look as well to bet Cleveland's live money line if it's tied late, if they're maybe down a run late. Keeping an eye on that just because of that bullpen advantage. The other thing that's going to be interesting to see is I think Francona has already said he wouldn't use Bieber in relief. If it's a big spot, if we're tied late, I think he's going to trust his bullpen, trust the guys who got him there. Essentially, we see these managers kind of overthink things a little bit and turn to starting pitchers. Everyone wants to do what the Giants did with Madison Bumgarner back in the day. It works sometimes, it doesn't work sometimes. I think Francona is going to stay away from Bieber. I think it would be basically a bullpen day for him in his normal throwing regimen. So I don't think we're going to see anything crazy like that. Obviously, the Yankees won't be able to go to Cole in relief since he just pitched last night. So I think it's going to be a relatively normal bullpen game, like the under here. Even if there's runs early, we were all on the under last night. It was 4-2 early. It stayed 4-2. Whether you had 6.5 or you had 7, you were sweating out and under there all night last night, and it paid off. And I think we're going to see something similar tonight, regardless of who wins.